Well, good morning. I am so pleased to have you here as my guest today, JiJi. And so, JiJi, you are a professor at Baker University. You also have some pretty amazing things going on in your life that I would like for you to tell us what the name of your foundation is and also how to pronounce your name. I'm going to be calling you JiJi during the whole interview, which is what you go by. But would you please tell us your name, where you're from, and then get right into what you do and for how long?
My full name is pronounced Ejiro Osiobe. The name of my family's foundation is the ANE Osiobe International Foundation. It was based in Nigeria because that's where my mom and my descendants are from, Nigeria. And this year, 2020, we migrated, we relocated it to the US. So now the foundation runs and functions as a US nonprofit. Um, how long have I been in the industry? I've been an economist for, I think, going to 17 years. And the reason why I'm counting it as 17 years is I'm thinking about when I started doing anything related to economics, which is from my undergrad. So this was back in '06. So from '06 is when I started working on economics as a field of study, and I started implementing economic theories into my daily lives. So, well, I think I've been doing that for a while, especially because in my mind, I played a lot of Monopoly with my mom, and economics is literally the game of Monopoly if you think about it in a way.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, people don't think about it that way, but if you're really good at playing the game of Monopoly, understanding economics, demand and supply would really catch up with you because it's kind of the same thing. Yeah.
That's great. I love that. We have a game at Action Coach called Leverage, which we teach people. Um, that's something maybe we can have your students do.
Yes, yes, why
It'd
not?
be fun to watch them play and learn at the same time. Good. I love that. Okay, so 17 years. It's a great story. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. So how would you describe who you help in your foundation? Tell us a little bit first about what you do at Baker, because I'm interested in that, and then tell us what you do with your foundation.
So my foundation, it's a developmental foundation, and we aim at human capital and economic growth, right? Which is very related to what I got my PhD in, which is we invest in human capital, which is people. So when it was based in Nigeria, what we did was we paid for scholarships. We paid for back to school packages for students, and we tried to connect students with universities because my dad worked at NUC, National University Commission. We tried to connect students to get admission into different affordable universities in Nigeria. And so that's what the foundation is really aimed at, right? Economic growth based on human capital. At Baker University, I teach economics, business information system, data analytics, and data projects. And other than the classes, and I just took over two new classes, which is Intro to Entrepreneurship and Venture Capitalism.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
Yes. So out of these classes that I teach at Baker, what me and my department chair, Dr. Judy, we've been working on since August is to create a business incubator at Baldwin, which connects students with academic and also connects students with people in the mainstream economy so they could start local businesses at Baldwin. So that's kind of the overall, that's what I do in my everyday life, right? It's either
Okay.
I'm working on these topics with the foundation, or on the flip side, I'm teaching what I do with the foundation at Baker University, while also creating this new business incubator down there.
I love that, but I feel like the two support and undergird each other, right?
Yes.
That's wonderful. Ah, that's great. Let's see. So let's talk about how you would describe your best customer.
So I would describe my best customer just as the way I would describe the best a best someone that I deal as a good person, right? Which would be someone that understands that things happen in life and they try to be the best version of themselves. So if you think about when you're studying a business, when even as a professor, right? I just read my students' evaluation, And after reading everything, I said to myself, okay, what can I do next semester that I could adjust so that they don't think this way, or how can I meet them where they are at, right? So that's how I describe my best person, right? And it's really tied on to the statement of Teddy Roosevelt, right? The man in the arena. And the reason why I say that is, sometimes you read your student review and what you did and how they interpreted it is just so different from your intention, right? So you think about this as a business person, right? I don't think any business um think about restaurant business or clothing industry or tech industry. No one sets out to, well, maybe some people, but most times nobody sets out to make people sad. But while their daily lives are going on and they're juggling the business, the finance, and different areas, they tend to make mistakes, right? And in Teddy's statement, right, and everybody's quick to critic, right? So, and that's why I really like the man in the arena that says, it's not the critics that count. It's not a strong man. It's not the man who points out when the strong man stumbles or where the doers of deeds would have done better, right? The credit belongs to the man that is actually in the arena, right? And so if you can picture that man in the arena or woman in the arena striving to work hard to achieve their goal, they're always going to make errors, right? They're always going to come short again, again, and again. And that's okay when you're doing your business, right? When someone makes a mistake, it's not nice for people to just pounce on them and say, well, you did this wrong, I would have done better. But you would have done better. That's true. But the reason why you would have done better is because now you see the mistake that they didn't see when they were starting. It's almost like a joke, right? Someone comes up on stage and they try to crack a joke without testing the joke at a comedy bar. When you crack the joke with the wrong group of people, everybody's like, right? But in the person's mind, the person thought that that joke was going to make everyone happy and smile, right? Well, rather than pounce on the person and say, you told a bad joke or you told an offensive joke, kind of look at the person like, I kind of see where you were heading, but you have a lot of work to do, right? So that's why I like the man in the arena, because of that statement that, no one is going to start a business and going to get it right all the time.
Absolutely. And I'm impressed that you're able to recite the man in the arena. I can tell that. So you and I have it here in front of us. Would you mind reading it? That way
Yeah,
it's in the interview in print
yeah, yeah,
in its
yeah.
entirety.
So the full statement is, it's not the critics who count, it's not the man who points out where the strong man has stumbled or where the doer has did would have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is mirrored with dust, sweat, and blood, who strives violently, who errs, who comes short again, again, and again, because there is no effort without errors or shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm to great devotion, who spends his self or herself with a worthy cause, who at the best knows that he ends in triumph of high achievement, and who knows at the worst he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, right? So his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who
Yeah.
needed no victory nor defeat, right? And that tells a lot, right? If and anytime there's this guy at my university, he's a vice president, Nate Hauser. And so Nate, Matthew, and I, we talk a lot about the EPL and soccer. And so there was one day we were talking in his office, and then I see the man in the arena, the statement on his wall, and I was like, I actually have that in my home office. I should actually get that at my Baker office, because it's always good to remind you, especially when you make a mistake, right? You're talking to this person, you're working with this person. In your mind, you think this is how, it's almost like the BEDO project I'm working on at Baker, right? I'm connecting this group of business people. I'm talking to this group of business people. In my deepest desire is to help the Baldwin community grow, right? And sometimes whenever I'm talking to Dr. Judy, I usually say, if this doesn't work out, this is gonna have a huge backlash, right? A huge, right? And that's the whole idea of the man in the arena, right? Your whole intention is good, but sometimes it doesn't work out as you imagine it in your mind. And it's usually because of, we have blind spots And we also have areas that we do not see that we should have put into our equation when building a model.
Right. There is so much in the in that paragraph of the man in the arena. I've seen books written around it. I've seen whole entire coaching programs developed from this. Like, and yeah, I love it. I'm really glad you included that and read it, because I think it's important. I think I need to have it on my office wall too. That's great. Thank you for that. So for the foundation, were there any business changes that you had to consider a necessity because of COVID?
So a necessity, what the major necessity we had is during the COVID period, the whole business environment changed globally. And as the business environment changed globally, the first thing I thought of was, what is the best thing I can do to protect the foundation? Because the economy in the US was totally different from the economy in Nigeria, two different economies.
Mm-hmm.
And I was navigating two different economies
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously. And at that point, I said the best move was for the foundation to permanently move into the US as a US, 501(c) nonprofit. And so one thing we had to do was to rent a big field, and every high school or primary school, which is every high school or primary school we had promised to give back to school materials that we had approval, we had to invite them. And while inviting them, we couldn't get the students to come because, it was COVID lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
So we could only work with the principal that would send a representative. And so we gave all the books we had bought, all the back to school materials to the principals. And with the hope that once the school opens, they will give it to those students that actually need those materials. Mm-hmm. We're still open to giving scholarship for schools, but I think right now the foundation is navigating towards only giving US standardized tests like the SATs, the GREs, the TOEFL as the standardized tests that we pay for, because in that way, since it's easy for the foundation to work with those companies since they're here in the US, the amount of meetings and transaction costs would literally reduce. So those were the major changes we've made. And now the foundation will be working with rural small communities in the US with research, economic development, and stuff.
I like that that you're looking at the rural, because such a need there. So that's great. I think that's good. So you've been in business, and business owner, foundation involved, and all of the things. I feel like when you're a professor, you own your business, because you have to, you're running a business of education, and you're right. So what's been the biggest learning that you've had since you've been a business owner and involved in the foundation?
Even so, I like how you put it as a professor, because what I usually tell people, that a professor of a class is somewhat like a manager, right?
Yes.
Because you have to take care of all these people you're teaching. And when you think about it, so let's imagine you're teaching a class of 20 students. So human IQ goes from what level, right? So let me be very generous, right? 90 to 150, right?
Right.
So you're teaching a group of students that have an IQ level of 90 to 150. So that means the learning capacity of each student is different. And so now you have to put all of them as a single avatar to present to a class. So you're going to meet the need of those that are in the 90 group, and you're also trying to meet the needs of people that are in the 150 group, right? That wants to move as fast as lightning, right? And then you're telling them that, listen, the class can only move as fast as the slowest person in the class. And so there's this dance going on back and forth when you teach a class that a lot of people don't know happens behind the scene. So same thing with the business, right? One client you're talking to, they don't want you to call them. They just want emails straight to the point. And it's because they're very busy, right? They're like, I've given you this job. You said you would get it done on this day. I'm not going to speak to you till the deadline. And then there's another client that you work with that they would call you every single day. They would send you a text even on Super Bowl Sunday, right?
Sure.
Right. And so now how do you set your boundaries between, oh, this, and you know, it's not nice for you to tell the client that really likes communicating to be like, well, my other clients don't call me. Well, these are two different people. These are two different businesses, right? So the major thing I learn every day, which is to always correct my models. Like, you know, like I said, I read my full student review yesterday, every single word that everyone said. And I asked myself, okay, out of these critics, what areas can I improve in, right? So it's like, you know, ever try, ever fail, no matter, try again, fail better. So I live by that, I live by that slogan, right?
I
Which is
love
like,
that.
yeah, because imagine if I corrected my whole class based on this review I just read. That is going to meet the exact students that just wrote this review. Guess who I'm going to be teaching next semester?
Right.
A group of people that needs a totally different thing. So yes, this review makes sense for these people that have moved on, but now I have to think about this new group. And it's actually even more tricky when there's a generational shift. All right. So now we're teaching mostly Gen Z. In about 8 years, it's gonna be a total different generation that knows nothing about TikTok. So then again you're gonna try to change to meet
Sure.
this new generation and
Yeah.
their needs where they are. So there's this ever trying, ever failing, no matter trying again, failing again,
Huh.
fail better. So there's that dance. And you know, most importantly, you can't make humans do what they don't want to do. That was a hard, long lesson that I had to, especially, I think the foundation taught me that lesson very well, especially when we were working on the farm, right? It is do this, do this, do this, and then, and everybody's like, yeah, 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 we hear you. And then they cut the line. And then by the time I see the video of the farm, they did exactly nothing that I said. And then they'll tell me this is better for where we are, right? You don't know what is going on. You're not on the ground. You're just looking at us through a video phone. And at that point, I just, you know, I changed it from do this to what do you think you guys intend to do? And then they'll tell me. And then if I don't like it, I would ask them, tell me why you're intending to do it this way. Right. So it wasn't so I had to learn that shift that okay, there's really nothing you can do sometimes in some environment, but just be like, tell me why you're thinking about it this way. And you know, sometimes you just have to stand back and just as the way I learn with my failures, you have to learn with your own failures
Mhm.
sometimes. And it's kind of painful sometimes when you're watching it happen because I know how this story ends.
Well, and you know the answer, but they aren't, so, but like, I love the phrase questions are the answers. They are,
Yeah.
they are, and that's what you just said. So I ask the question, I ask another question to clarify, and to help that person who's answering the question uncover their thoughts too, so, what a great story. Okay, so this interview will also be in print, so in a newsletter. We also want to offer you if you would like to put anything in the newsletter as an offer, we will put that in there for you. What would you like us to do for you? Can we?
I would really like to promote what my colleagues and I at the Department of Business and Economics are working on, right? Under the leadership of Dr. Judy, right, at Baker University, which is we are starting the Baker Economic Development Office, right? And its main goal is to help local businesses, entrepreneurs in Baldwin City, right? And the university has, you know, has decided to start an annual Baldwin Economic Development Outlook Conference every April, which brings business owners in Baldwin, neighboring community from Lawrence, from Wichita, from Topeka, and just to create this business synergy that helps that rural community grow. Because Baldwin has a lot of potential, and we are trying to see how we can bring um, the students' ideas and the local business owners down there, help them scale their business and also start exporting their products to other states and even outside the US. So that is the major goal of the BEDO project that we've been working on.
And there's a conference that's scheduled in on April the 5th of 2023.
Yes, April the 5th, 2023.
Okay. And
Yeah,
then
that would be the, yeah.
I was going to say, you're going to give us information on how to find out more about that too.
Yes, we would. So the basic goal is we would start advertising the conference I think the first day of February and get people to RSVP And at the end, so the overall goal, other than the conference and the incubator, we're also studying the BEDO economic bulletin. And the aim of that bulletin is to write, this, it's kind of a business analytical report of Baldwin. So we're going to analyze each industry in Baldwin, look for the strengths, look for potential, and post it at the university library for business people to see, okay, how can this benefit my business if I move to Baldwin community? So that's what the whole project my colleagues and I were all working on.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So what do you find most inspiring? By the way, I've just called you JiJi because we've met outside of the professional.
Yeah.
Or do they call you Dr. JiJi at?
I think everyone calls me JiJi because my dad is Dr. Osiobe.
Okay,
So,
okay.
and he's still alive. So
All
it's
right.
kind of weird. So sometimes people call me Dr. Osiobe and it's like
that's my dad.
That's my dad, right? So right now I go by JiJi.
Okay.
Right? Maybe when I stop looking this young, then maybe Dr. Osiobe will take. But for the main part, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this funny joke, right? I was telling this to my sister, and I had this student. His name is Malachi, and after I taught the first class, he walks up to me and he said, "For a second, he thought I was about to pull Catch Me If You Can in front of the classroom." So there's a movie about Catch Me If You Can, and Leonardo DiCaprio plays a fake professor for a very long time in his class. And then he was like, he actually thought that's what I was doing. I was like, no, I don't think I don't think people go out of their ways to do that with a data analytics or an econ class. Maybe other easy classes, but not this one.
Not this one. Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, so what do you find most inspiring about the foundation, about your business?
The foundation. So the foundation, I'll tell you how it started, right? So my mom passes away 2014. We go through this lengthy back and forth before she could get buried. So I think she dies on her birthday, in the month of June. We don't bury her till like I think the second week of December that year. So it has a lot to do with tradition and different things, right? And which was just painful on my side. And so while my mom was alive, she always gave out back to school stuff to people that she didn't know because she taught in high schools. So when she goes to teach, she'll see some students with no books. She'll see students with no backpack. And because of my dad's line of business, whenever he goes for conferences and goes for different things, we had so many books in our houses, so many backpacks that nobody would use, And so my mom would be like, if you wouldn't use it, someone out there will use it, right? If you wouldn't wear these shoes, I'll take it and give it to someone that will wear the shoes, right? And so, sometimes when she sees that we don't use something for a long time at home, she will take it out to go give. And the rest of us as kids, we never did a lot of giving, right? It's like, okay, you do you. And so then when she passed away, that her first year anniversary of passing away, I was really sad and I was just like, kind of depressed. And and this happened in Wichita, right? The foundation actually started in my little room when I was a master's student in Wichita. And so I pick up a piece of pen and a paper and I start writing, right? I start writing what are the goals, what are the aims, and everything I started writing down just sounded exactly like what my mom would have done, right? I would give out free books. Well, she did that. Backpacks, she did that. I'll pay for standardized exam for people that actually have the potential to do well, but can't pay for these exams. And so I just literally took all her ideas and created this foundation. So the only part of me that's in the foundation is the, using economic terms like human capital, economic growth, economic development. But technically, if we remove the economics and the economics terms, they were kind of her ideas that I just modified and built.
You just put a bow on it.
Yeah, I just put a bow on it. It's like,
that's so nice.
Yeah,
what a wonderful thing to do in her memory too.
Yes,
that's wonderful. That's a great story. So let's talk about your book, Female Education, A Way Forward. Tell us about that.
So this is a book we wrote in 2020 during the pandemic. And the primary aim of this book, and it's free online, the primary aim of this book is to give highlights of what women in Nigeria have done, right? Amazing women, right? So I delved deep and I was looking at the achievement of what women in Nigeria have done. And some of them I knew growing up, like, Dr. Dora of NAFDAC in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the drugs, right? Back in the days, they used to sell fake drugs. And, imagine someone falling sick of malaria, going to a pharmacist trying to buy these drugs, and after you spend all your money buying it, it's fake. You're buying like a placebo. There's nothing in there, right? And so the person ends up dying for the disease. And so when Dr. Dora took over, she, as the minister of NAFDAC, she fought it, and she got rid of that in the country, because it's just a painful sight to see, especially. And again, according to the World Bank, there's so many people in Africa that live below $2. Well, now it's now $1.50. Back it was $1, right? Because of inflation, it's now $1.50. So let's be generous, below $2 a day. If someone lives below $2 a day and they go buy medication that is worth maybe $7 or $10, and that's a fake, and that's a placebo, that's
Mm-hmm.
not the real deal. Literally, the person spent maybe 3 days food to buy a medication,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you think about opportunity cost, right? So some members of the family might not eat so that this member of the family doesn't die, and so they do it, and then they bought the fake drug and the person dies.
No.
So that's a huge achievement that woman actually accomplished. And then there's the 20 I said dollar the 20 naira bill. There's a lady, I think it's at the back or at the front. Her name is Lady Kwali,
Mm-hmm.
right? And she's a famous potter, and she was known internationally for creating all these famous art pots, and she would sell it in in the in the US, in Europe. And that is, you think about the art, right? The painters and different group of people, that is someone that should be celebrated for exposing her art to the rest of the world. Then currently, this lady, she's still alive. She's the CEO of World Health Organization, Dr. Okonje, right? And that is that, like, she's an economist, so yay for economist. She's an economist, and she has done great things. I read a lot of her written works, right? Especially when I'm working on a project, right? I would type her name on Google Scholar or ResearchGate, and I would like to read to see her opinion on a topic before I can drop my own opinion, right? That is a great scholar that is out there that is representing women in Nigeria that they don't celebrate. And one of my favorite and famous one that is underappreciated is Queen Amina. And she's from the northern side of Nigeria, right? And she helped defend her dad's kingdom during a war, which was my hands is up. I don't know why. she helped she helped defend her dad's kingdom during a war, and this happened way before Nigeria even got their independence. So this happened even before the British people came into Nigeria. This is a this is an amazing story that people don't talk about. And the whole kingdom was saved by a woman. And
Mm-hmm.
so this book highlights different achievements of different women in Nigeria from different regions. And I just, if young girls in Nigeria can see themselves in these women, I just felt that, that's what the book was about, to talk about these stories that no one talks about. And yeah, that's why we
Mm-hmm.
wrote the book.
And you referenced a movie too, that
Yeah, The Woman
oh,
King. I
yeah,
haven't seen I haven't seen the movie. It's on my
me,
it's on my watch list. It's one of like things to watch.
me too.
Yeah, and so yeah, when I saw the trailer of the movie, the woman king. I hope we're not getting the name wrong.
I think you're right, but
Yeah. The lead actress. I watched her series, How to Get Away with Murder. I watched the
yes,
whole
that's the
thing. Like,
one.
yeah, that's the lead actress in the movie, right? And so when I watched the trailer, Queen Amina came into my mind. I was like, oh, I was like, I don't know if the storyline is actually from Queen Amina, but this storyline really sounds like something that had happened. So
Mhm.
again, I'm not saying that that's where they got the storyline, but there's a lot of similarities between that and something that actually happened in history in Nigeria.
I think what you're describing is you don't have to be a great warrior to win a war. You have to be a great leader.
Yes.
And that moves over in business too. And if women can see themselves as warriors, they can see themselves as successful in business too.
Indeed, indeed, yeah,
I
because
love
the business world is almost like a
it's
jungle, right?
exactly the
Yeah, it's
same.
just like you're fighting different. It doesn't have to be fighting your competitors. Is you're fighting to keep the lights on, you know? Yeah, you're fighting to pay your workers or your contractors their paycheck. You're fighting to get health insurance for the people that work under you. You're fighting to ensure that they can get a break and go for their vacations, right? And like we said during our private conversation, no one is gonna fight for your business the way you would fight for it.
Mhm.
And
Right,
so when you're starting a business, the founder needs to realize that it's gonna require lots and lots of sleepless nights.
right.
And
It is.
yeah, and that is war. You're fighting to keep the lights on till the business is strong enough that then you can go to bed.
Right. And the entrepreneur, sees the end game of the win in mind. They're not sure how.
Yeah, yeah,
Keep that win in mind.
indeed. Yeah, you're
Mhm.
not sure how it's gonna work out, but
Right.
you're just like, yeah, one
Exactly.
foot at a time.
Totally. Well, I really appreciate your time today. And so let's see, you told us about the business, the BEDO project and the first conference. So that's April 5th. And so you said it's an aim to foster business creation and retention and give business students a platform to present their scholarly research, which is wonderful. Thank you for that. And then what's your favorite business book?
My favorite book is not actually a business book. I think my favorite book is actually an engineering book. Funny, right? At least it's not a biology book because
There you
economists
go.
and biologists are always having clashes back to back on what to do with an economy. Mine is by Don Newman, The Design of Everyday Teams. And in his book, he talks about something called affordance. And when you talk about affordance, it's basically how do I design a project and make this project work with different sectors of the economy, right? So when we started, it's like, okay, my foundation deals with economic growth, human capital, and development. I teach economics, data analytics, and entrepreneurship and venture capital. My colleagues and I were starting a business incubator, and within the business incubator is starting a conference. So if you look at the design of what is going on, right? They're always overlapping, but opening like economics of scope, economics of skill happening there simultaneously, right?
Mhm.
There were some group of students, I think four of them, that walked up to me and they would come to my office to ask for business advice. And I was like, okay, I'm looking at my schedule and my time. This is not feasible for me to keep doing this every time. So what I did was, okay, let's start a book club. So rather than you always coming to ask for advice, we would recommend a book to read. And then once a month, we'll all talk about the book, right? So it's always because, you've heard the saying, leaders are readers. So if you want to start a business, that means you're saying, I want to be a leader. If you're going to be a leader, you have to read multiple things simultaneously at the same time.
That's a really good. I love that. Leaders are readers. I'd almost forgotten that phrase, but it's so true. You do have to read the right thing, and you also have to apply and
Yes,
execute.
yes, you
It's
have to
not
apply
just
and execute.
it's not just about that reading, but well, so we're about to end our interview, and I want to ask you, how can people get a hold of you? And I'm going to post this your foundation and all of your foundation website, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and all of those things in this video in the link. But how can they get a hold of you personally through LinkedIn or email if they would like to do that, and maybe a phone number too, if you're okay?
The best way to reach me is through LinkedIn DMs. I do read my LinkedIn DMs, except for the ones that starts as an ad.
Yes.
And so I do read those ones, but I don't reply to them. But and then the Baker University email address is on the Baker University website. That's another great way to reach
Okay.
me. I do read that email a lot. I usually tell people you have to give me at least 72 hours to reply.
Okay. Perfect.
And or you can reach me out at my ResearchGate profile. The ResearchGate is well, how I describe ResearchGate is like the Facebook for researchers,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So when you read academic papers, you look at Julian Simon, one great economist. Um, you want to get in touch with Julian Simon, the best way to get in touch
Is-
with him with ResearchGate and send him a direct DM and ask him a question like, well, Julian, I read this your statement on population growth. I have this question to ask, and he would reply you.
Ooh,
So
thank you
yeah,
for that. I did not know about that.
yeah. So a
Okay.
lot of academics, the best way to reach them is ResearchGate,
Okay, good.
because that's kind of like the academic Facebook where people talk about ask research questions and reply to each other back and forth. So that's the platform where academics exchange ideas.
That makes sense. Yes, you did say that on there, on here too. So ResearchGate, good, great. Well, I want to thank you, JiJi, very much for your time today, and I love your passion about your education and the foundation. I'm excited to you and I are going to be meeting. I'm going to be participating in helping you with that, and I'm super excited because you've
Yes.
invited me to speak to your group at this conference, perhaps, or with your students. So I will end this interview, and thank you very much for your time, and what you're doing is wonderful, and whatever you do, keep it up.
Okay.
All
Thank you
right.
so
Thank you,
much. I
JiJi.
appreciate it. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.